Welcome to Business Talk Sister Talk. I'm Becca.
And I'm Ruthie.
And today's episode title is How to Become a Renaissance Entrepreneur. And with us today, we have a guest who has a singular name, Brimstone. He has had a successful and rewarding career spanning over 4 decades. And I'm really excited about all the different things he's done, including professional wrestling, radio host, podcaster, actor, voice actor, author, musician, food critic, philanthropist, horror model, comic book and animated children's book, and video game hero. Okay, there's so many things here. And thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, man. Finally, Brimstone has made it to Business Talk Sister Gawk. Love you, Becca and Ruthie. It's going to be so much fun. Listen, now I can't see you guys, so I'm going to hopefully figure out who's speaking to me at what time. So if I call one of you the wrong name, I am apologetic right here at the get-go.
Oh, yeah, you're totally fine. Yeah, we're so excited to talk with you because I think that a Renaissance entrepreneurship is something that many people haven't really heard of. And I was wondering if you could give us a definition of it.
I mean, it's funny because it is in my bio, and but for all intent and purpose, I mean, it was given to me by multiple people in the media, who they're like, he does everything. He is a Renaissance man. So in the grand scheme of things, being a Renaissance man or woman, essentially is having your hands in many different cookie jars, being able to kind of float from one area of the industry into another seamlessly and kind of know what's going on. And I've been doing that for many years. I mean, I started my career, as a child actor. Then I went into music. Then I went into, pro wrestling. Then, this and that and the next thing. And I've kind of, studied each industry. I know a lot about each industry. I can't say I know everything about any industry because, you never stop learning. So, being somebody who is pretty much always on it and always looking to learn and to build and to grow. I think especially moving into the to the way we're going in terms of the world itself. I mean, just this morning I read a new thing about I don't know if you guys are familiar with neon. It's this artificial intelligence where it's like all actual they're making these AIs that look like real people and they function as real people, and you actually talk to them. It's through Samsung, but it's a different company. It's so weird, and like they're thinking, well, these are the type of people, the AI. Although I can't say people, they're not people, but these AI are going to wind up taking positions from people, in terms of whether it's ordering something at McDonald's or going to the bank and meeting a teller and so forth. So the people that are kind of growing up now really need to kind of get their grip on being multifaceted in this world, because there are a lot of jobs that are not going to be here for much longer, when they start bringing in more computers, AI, and so forth. So I mean, I think it's really important to kind of have your hand in a bunch of different cookie jars at every point in time. Hope I'm making sense.
Yeah. And I was just thinking, like you had said that where there's jobs that are phasing out, and even more than that, like there's jobs that are not even created yet. And so like you're preparing for jobs that don't even exist,
Right,
which is crazy. Yeah. So you've given us a really cool overview of where you're at and what you're doing. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing right now.
Right now, I'm talking to the two of you on Business Talk Sister Talk.
Well played.
Well, you asked, so I figured I had to tell you that. So right now, I mean, I'm doing a bunch of different things, a couple of things that I cannot discuss simply because they're NDA, but there are some big things that come in. But I am currently doing a couple of different video games in terms of voiceover work. Oh my God, I have a new product coming to the market very shortly. I have additions to my sauce and seasoning line, as well as a couple of old favorites that I'm bringing back. Oh my God, I mean, the list goes on. I'm always doing a bunch of different things all at once. So it's for me, like there's just so much to talk about. It's like I don't want to bore people. But I'm always doing I do the Grindhouse Radio on iHeart, and we do about 30 other networks. We're doing between like 3.5, 4 million listeners weekly worldwide with that. So that keeps me really, really busy.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So between that and doing the other shows I do, and doing the voice work and doing, all the sauces and seasonings, I'm doing pre-production, like I said, for a project that is going to be hitting a major streaming service soon. So that's another thing in the works. It's just, that's before I get to spend any time with my family. So, you know what I mean? And then social media, you know how it is. So I do a lot. And that's just happening like this week. I mean, next
Ooh.
week, I might have a whole bunch of new, things to work on. I know I'm going to be doing a lot of influencing like you guys and I discussed prior to coming on air. So,
Mm.
Mhm.
there's just a lot. It's always like a moving platform. And the fun thing is I like it that way because it doesn't get boring. You know what I mean?
Right.
You're
Yeah.
always doing something new, something creative, something different. And I have to always be creative. I hate being in a slump and not being able to do anything. One of the greatest things that happened during the pandemic, even though I was hating being in the pandemic, was the fact that I was able to do more with voice work. I was able to kind of catch
Mm.
up on things that I didn't, have the time to do prior because I'm always out and about. I'm always on the road. Like even as we speak, my agents are messaging me about, different events that they're looking to book me at, and and different projects and so forth. So, during pandemic, I was able to slow down a little bit, take a breath, while I could, because then I got COVID and that was not good.
You
But
Yeah.
couldn't take a breath.
that so I couldn't take a breath. But when I was able to again, what
Mm.
was really cool was that I gotten picked and for a couple of main roles for a couple of different video games and some animated things, and I wound up getting COVID, and they thankfully they wanted me so bad that they actually waited until I was better to go
Mm.
in and cut the
Mm.
lines, which was amazing because one of them's for the Oculus, what do you call it, Quest 2, which is the new virtual reality headset, and
Mm.
so I play Wyatt Earp for Finger Gun, which is the game.
Mm.
New
Oh, very
technology,
cool.
really cool stuff, and a couple of other video games. I had Viking Vengeance that just released on Steam, which I played Wotan.
Nice.
So there's a lot of stuff. Like I said, there's a lot of things going on that I wouldn't have necessarily had the time to hone in on. You know what I mean?
Mm.
If I was constantly running and doing all the normal touring things that I do
Mhm.
when the world is open. Hope I'm making
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Practical rest.
So my
Yes.
question for you, and I recently had this happen because I went to like this Chamber of Commerce event, and somebody said to me, "Oh, what do you do?" And I literally stopped and I didn't know what to say. I literally said whatever I want. But like, how do you answer that question when people ask you as a Renaissance entrepreneur?
Well, I mean, since I do have a lot of different titles, they it does become a little difficult here and there. Where if I'm signing in an event or doing an appearance or whatever it is, sometimes it's like, all right, well, how do we bill you? How do we put you out there? Like, some people will go with the whole, celebrity appearance type thing. Other people will be like, Brimstone entertainment entrepreneur, a serial entrepreneur. It depends, you know what I mean? It depends on what I'm doing. Like if I'm doing business events, sometimes they'll throw a mixture of both in. So it's difficult when people say to me, well, what do you do? I'm like, well, well, that's a trick question, and how much time do you have is what it comes down to. And
Gig
I
company.
yeah, and I don't like to be, I try to be, to be as unapologetically authentic as possible. And if you want to know, I'm going to tell you. And sometimes people take that as me showing off, but it's not. It's just
Mm.
that's my life. That's what I do. And it's very difficult sometimes for people to understand, and it's hard for them to figure out and hard for them to categorize. But I think that the more people are hearing about what I do and other people like me, I think that they're realizing the value in it, and trying to kind of figure out how they can do certain things as well. I mean, one of my things is I always aspire to inspire, and a lot
Mhm.
of people, I get on the daily, people that message me, whether it's on social media, email, on the website, whatever it is. And they're like, I just wanted to say thank you. And I'm like, what? For what? Like, they're like, you
Mm.
inspired me to, kind of go go for broke and realize my dreams. And, now I'm doing this and it's because of you and thank you. And I'm like, no, it's because of you. You know what I mean? Because
Mm.
you believed in yourself. Maybe I inspired you to do it, but you believed in yourself to kind of jump on it and make it happen.
Yeah.
So, for me, again, I'm just happy, when people are like, hey, Rim, you inspired me.
Yeah.
But going back to the original question, most of the time it depends on where I am and what I'm doing. When people say, well, what do you do? If I'm just at a party or if I'm at a family function, oh God, those are the worst. Cause then it's like, all right, now I'm the elephant in the room.
You just
But what do
hand
you
him a
call it?
copy of your resume at that point.
Yeah, right. It's just nuts. But yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's such an interesting thing because people don't they can't fathom. You know what I mean? And I've
Mm.
had success in every area that I've been. So it's like, all right, well, how do we describe you? Which is why it's like, celebrity entertainer, and or entertainment entrepreneur or
Mm.
serial
Mm-hmm.
entertainment entrepreneur. So
Yeah.
hope
So
that
kind of
hope that that was a
coining
good
that.
answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you are, so say someone is looking to do a whole bunch of different opportunities and they're wanting to kind of become this Renaissance entrepreneur, how do they evaluate whether an opportunity is worth their time and aligns well with what they kind of are working towards? Because it seems like there's at least a thread of a consistent theme throughout the different things that you've pursued. So how do you kind of decide this is worth my time and this is aligns well with the trajectory of what I want to do?
So for me, my whole outlook when I'm doing things is what's the next thing that makes sense? What kind of connects to what I'm doing? Like here, to give you an example, the music to wrestling was the biggest jump, you know what I mean, in terms of but it was still entertainment, it's still showy and so forth. But once I was in wrestling, I said, all right, well, what's the next possible move from here? What's the next step? And how can I expand this? So now I have the character and what are wrestlers are big superheroes. They're just like real life superheroes, right? So what did I do? I said, okay, well, let's take the Brimstone character, pull it out of the ring, and let's build him into a comic book character. Then the comic books, what's the next step from there? Children's books, you know what I mean? So and the same characters in the children's books. So you've got the Brimstone comic book character, the Brimstone, well, Lil Brim in the kids books. My readers, the adults read the comics and then they have their kids read the kids books so they could vibe with each other on the stories of the characters. So so it's very similar in that aspect. But then you take it and within the comic books, okay, within the comic books there's a place called hell in the middle of heaven, a heaven in the middle of hell. So what do you call it? Heaven is a bar and grill that all the main characters go to in hell. Again, it's just a gimmick, people. I'm not a Satan worshiper. I'm Jewish. Jews don't believe in hell. It's it's a story. But that being said, I don't want to freak anybody out there. But heaven, complete with Stairway. If you guys are no Led Zeppelin, Stairway to Heaven, it's a joke, but you guys might have a younger audience. So the older cats will understand what I'm talking about, but the younger ones will have no clue. But anyway, inside the bar in the comic book, they're eating, sweet eat treat wings and grindhouse burgers and grub munchies and so forth. Well, all of those things are actual real products on market because now I have my grindhouse seasoning, I have my flavor behavior seasoning, I have my sweet heat treat wings, I have
Subliminal
awesome sauce.
marketing. Look at
You see what I'm saying? My grub munchies, all the candies that are there are all available. Wasteland Sand. So all of this stuff is actually there in real life. So if you're a comic book, fan, well, you'll get to see and realize, oh my God, these are real products. And if you're, have nothing to do with comics, you can go, oh my God, this is actually from a comic book. So you know what I mean? It hits a bigger market and so forth.
They like cross promote to one another.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, on top of that, if you notice, I said grindhouse seasoning and grindhouse burgers. Well, I do the grindhouse radio. So do you notice how everything is kind of, all attached? Everything I do is attached in one way, shape, or form. So it all makes sense. But so for for everybody who's listening, in my professional capacity, if I'm going to say, what do you, how do you figure out, what do you do, you got to listen to your heart, you got to listen to your head. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Does this make sense? Is this something I want to do? Sometimes it makes no sense in the world to do it. You know what I mean? But you look at it and you go, I'm going to do it anyway. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And it, and that's good too. You got to do what makes you happy. And the thing that people don't realize is, when you work a 9 to 5, you're building someone else's dream. Most of the time people are miserable, they're not doing what they want to do, and they're only making a tiny piece of the pie. When you why not invest 200% in yourself? Yeah, the hours are longer, it's harder work, but at the end of the day, it's so much more fulfilling. You're working for yourself, you're building your own company, your own brand, you're making your own money, and then you can eventually have people working for you, and you can pay them to help build your dream. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
build and grow, leave a legacy. And that's what I look to do. I always look to leave a legacy. So when people look at me when I'm gone, or look at the Brimstone moniker, they go, wow, that guy, he did a lot.
Mm.
He did a lot in a short amount of time, and and was successful with it, and for my family to be able to be supported well after I'm gone. So that's
Yeah.
that's my goal, to leave a real solid legacy. And
Mm.
and also, you want to give back just as much as you put in. Everything I do, like, I mentor people still. I give back, I do a lot of charity work, I do, you know what I mean? You find the time for things that you want to make happen.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's,
So
hopefully that helps.
I
Mhm.
have, maybe you can kind of summarize this one, because I know I have another question and we're like getting really close on time to so many things that I want to get through. So, um, how was this originally like the path you took? What is your why of how you went this way with your career?
I got sick of working for somebody else.
Mm.
I worked at places before. I didn't pop out of the womb and say, hey, I'm going to do this. So, but I did start as a child actor, on Sesame Street and Romper Room when I was a kid. So I had the taste of it.
Mm-hmm.
And my father was a self-starter, and he was an entrepreneur within the insurance industry.
Mm.
And what do you call it? My mother was, she worked for other people, but she had her own business. She had done a confectionery business, and did chocolates and cakes and so forth. So I've always been around it growing up. So, and I was also around entertainment growing up. My father, was a would be singer, and what do you call it? He should have been a professional golfer, but my grandfather had him go into the family business, and he
Mm.
didn't get to realize his dreams with that. But at the end of the day, I saw what they were doing, and I was working a bunch of different jobs, and that's good, be that I did that because I was able to learn the ins and outs of a lot of things. I was drawn to media, so I worked in for publications and so forth. So that helped me when I built my comic book company, because
Mm.
I knew publishing, so why not open up a publishing company? The same thing with sales. Sales is a very big thing to know. Sales, marketing, building of relationships, and this is all stuff that I got when I was younger and working for other people, and kind of learning from the people around me. So, you know, when I finally made that decision was, right out of college. I mean, I was on tour, I was doing music stuff, I was doing well. And and then I was working at a company making six figures here on the island, for Newsday, which is another publication, doing sales and wrestling, making big money at the same time. So it
Mm.
was kind of like, why not just stop doing everything and just do it myself?
Mm.
And I did it myself. I started doing it myself, and I just I continue to build and brand and market myself. And some people would like to say, selfish promotion or whatever. And I'm like, all right, well, if I'm not going to promote me, who else will?
So it
And
kind of sounds it kind of sounds like you went like a little bit like you did a side hustle into, not necessarily side hustle, but like low risk, because you were still working for someone while you were getting into the professional wrestling aspect, right?
yeah, yeah, but also what I didn't mention is that I had my first business when I was 16, 17.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I
Okay.
had already had like that background behind me.
Okay.
Funny enough.
So then when you're kind of like deciding all these different things and you're seeing all these different things that you want to do and things like you earlier you were talking about, like sometimes you just want to do things, but you also have to survive and and be profitable and make money. So how do you kind of decide like what is like just a pet project and what is actually something that's worth the time value that you're putting in to be able to pursue a specific project?
Everything for me, if I like it, it's worthwhile, and I turn it into a business.
Nice.
The like the Grindhouse Radio was something that I was like, all right, well, I want to do something, and it came from I wouldn't say failure on that one, although failures are the seeds to success. But with this situation, I had wanted to start a radio series, and I contacted all the local terrestrial radio stations, and I said, hey, they know me for years. I've been doing interviews for them over the years. I know all the DJs and the people above. And I said, I'd really like to maybe do a show. This is my idea. And I heard crickets. So I was like,
Mm,
well, if I'm not going to get any help here from you guys, I'll just do it myself.
mm,
And what do you call it? And I spoke to a couple of my interns at the time, who are now my partners. And I said, if you guys are interested, let's do this. And if it works, it'll be we'll turn it into a business. And yada yada yada. And here we are, 7 years later. We won 4 years in a row, best radio station on Long Island, where we're from.
woo.
So we've beaten all the terrestrial radio stations that we have that ignored me at the beginning. And and what do you call it? And we're making very, very good money, let's just say. And so that being said, anything you do is worth your time as long as you're going to spend the time to put into it. Again, it's many people are like, well, I'm not going to do it if I'm not doing this if I'm not making money, or I'm not doing that if I'm not. Guess what, man? Do it, because if you don't do it, it's a woulda, shoulda, coulda thing. First of all, second of all, you don't know what's going to come from something when you do it pro bono. I'm happy to do things if it makes sense pro bono. Some people have an amazing product or an amazing idea, and they just don't have the money to get it off the ground. So look, somebody gave me an opportunity at one point. Why shouldn't I give somebody else the opportunity? Does that make sense?
No, yeah, absolutely. So, and
So
with that, one of the questions that we always end with in asking is, what resources or tools or books would you recommend to someone who is interested in becoming a Renaissance entrepreneur? What kind of things would you say these were really helpful to me, and anybody else that wants to do this should do it?
to be completely honest, I believe that the biggest thing about becoming a Renaissance entrepreneur is, or just a Renaissance person in general, is to just follow your heart. You don't need books. You don't need to read things. You don't need to go and watch videos online. You know what I mean? You could and you should, because learning is incredible. But if you have an idea, or if you have a passion, go with that passion. Learn as much about it as you possibly can. If you said to me, well, Brim, I want to learn about wrestling, well, I could pinpoint where you can go to look for that. Or if you're looking to do this type of a business or whatever, like I would recommend like Score. You know what I mean? And get yourself a mentor and so forth. And but there, without knowing any kind of definitives, like there aren't any specific places I tell you to go. But I would also say that it's very important for anybody who's looking to kind of carry themselves like that, and to kind of build their career or their brand, or their base of operations as a Renaissance person. I would suggest that you well verse yourself in sales, in marketing, in
Hmm.
relationship building, because it
That's what
doesn't
I was
matter
just going to
what you do.
ask. It
Yeah,
sounds like
doesn't
you have a
matter.
strong aspect of networking in your personality.
Yes, it's huge. It's very
Mhm.
huge. And and the fact is that if you don't do this, you will get nowhere. Everything in life, whether it's sitting and going to you can go get a cup of coffee. It's still, that's networking. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
That's communication. You need to know how to communicate. And a lot of the kids nowadays have a problem where they can't communicate without a phone in their hand. They can't communicate without a computer in front of them. It's very important to have these person-to-person relationships. Be able to speak, pick up a phone. Anxiety runs wild, in the generation of today. And and people are afraid to pick up phones. I can tell you, I had an office full of people that would do anything I needed them to do except for pick up phones because they were afraid of the person on the other end. You
Mm.
can't be afraid, people.
Mm.
You gotta make it work. And because without being able to speak, without being able to talk, without being able to have conversations, you're never, there's no way that you're gonna be able to sell whatever product you're looking to sell.
Yeah.
So, it is what
Mhm.
it is.
Yeah, and I feel like you have so much more that that people can
know.
learn from you, and then there's so much that, like, even just in talking with you, we could even we could talk
Dig
for so
into.
long. Yeah,
Mhm.
but tell us a little bit about where people can find you so that they can keep
Connecting
yeah, and picking your brain from a distance.
Absolutely.
Keyword
Listen,
from
I
a
am very
distance.
I am very active on my Instagram. If you guys are on Instagram at the real Brimstone, it's verified. You'll know it's me. I answer all of my messages as long as I see them. They sometimes they go to the I don't know you area, and sometimes I just don't see them. So what do you call it? If I don't respond, it's just simply because I haven't seen it. But rather than DMing me, start on the what do you call it on my posts, write to me there, chat with me there, get involved, and I am happy to respond. I respond to everybody. It's not my wife, it's not my assistant, it's not my intern, it's all me. And what do you call it, I'd love to hear from you guys. And then what do you call it, my official website, therealbrimstone.com. There's a lot there. I do have, in the Brim blog, there are a couple of articles that may prove helpful to people that are looking to become entrepreneurs and so forth. And I'll be adding more when, in between when I have time to kind of get on there and do it. Anybody who's looking to get into like podcasting and stuff like that, I do have a couple of great articles there. In terms of that, the grindhouseradio.com, please make sure to check us out. We have a lot of fun and it's all pop culture. And yeah, man, would love to have you guys, check us out.
So thank you so much, Brimstone, for hanging out with us and just for just sharing your wisdom with us. And we're going to transition into the Sister Gawk portion of our episode. And earlier when we were talking like pre-recording, you had mentioned just about your family and getting. I just have really appreciated that about you, like just knowing that that's something that you take very seriously. So if you have a story that you want to share about them or anyone or whatever, we're just
business.
All right. So you want to hear a funny story? You want a funny, embarrassing story?
yeah.
As long as it's G-rated.
Wow. All right. So I'm getting slapped right from the get-go.
Pigeonhole
It does have
you.
to do with the bed. I mean, is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So when I was younger, I forgot how old I was. I must have been like 11, 12 years old. And what do you call it? I had a mattress and bunk beds. And for some reason, I was just pissed off one day. I don't know why, but I was just angry and like I was, one on those hot days where it's just
Teenage
like
angst. We
everything's
get
just
it.
irritating. And I what do you call it? I sat up in my bed and like on my legs, what do you call it? I guess the way the mattress was turned, the tags all like wrinkled up against my leg and just like scratched me. And I got so mad and I grabbed the tags and I ripped them right off the bed. And after I ripped them off the bed, I stopped and I was looking, at the tags and I was like, oh my God, they're gonna come take me away. Cause on the what do you call on the tags,
Yeah.
they what do you call they say, that, if with
Do not
penalty of
remove.
law,
Yeah.
remove,
Yeah.
do not remove. And so I'm like, oh my God, because I'm a kid. I don't know any better. So I'm freaking out. I'm pacing in my room. I'm like crying. I didn't know what's gonna happen. I'm sitting here thinking like that the nano police were gonna come in and jump through the windows and take me away. And then I ran downstairs to my mother and I have them in my hand and I'm tearing and I'm crying. And she's like, what's wrong? What's wrong? And I said, Mom, I said, they're coming for me. The police are going to come take me with you. What are you talking about? And I was like, I ripped the things off the bed. They're coming to get me. And she's like, she looks at me and she starts laughing in my face. like, and I'm like,
no, Mom, no.
Right.
She's like,
right.
yeah, you're thinking she's just like so happy someone's taking you away.
Yeah, I'm like, oh my God. I said, this is not funny. And anyway, so she told me, she's like, no, they're not coming for you. It's okay. We own the bed. That's only when if you rip it off when you're in the stores, and they wouldn't take you away then either. I was like, oh great, So that was my story. Hopefully that would have amused some of you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
for
well,
sure.
Thank you so much for being with us today. And if you guys enjoyed this podcast, you can give us a review on Apple Podcasts, and we will see you next week.